Right.
Just wanted to give an update to everyone on how the Cambridge wastewater treatment plant's going. So just going to go through and give a bit of an update in terms of how our short-term consent is tracking, which is doing well. Going to look at how the treatment plant for the long term is starting to have a look. We've got a few nice 3D pictures. And then also just wanting to chat through the resource consent and give council an update on that. So in terms of some project backgrounds, you'd all be aware that we obtained the short-term consent in 2020, and that requires us to have a new plant designed, built and commissioned by 2026. So as part of that short-term consent, we've also formalised the iwi partners group that we've had into a kaitiaki group, and have been working closely with them throughout that time, and they've been overseeing and inputting into what a new treatment plant looks like. And we've also been co-writing and working together on the consent application that we're going to be making. The short-term consent has also seen us bringing in a Moturonga Māori framework, and so that has been worked with our kaitiaki partners and is looking really good, and is actually helping form a framework to which the consent can be considered against, which will be going to iwi governance shortly. Also part of the consent was a short-term, or one-off, fund of 150,000 that was given to the kaitiaki group, and we've had an ongoing 50,000 per annum fund for that group to administer. We've also been with Councillor Webber sitting on at the community liaison group, which has community board members and also fish and game representatives sitting on it. We've been meeting with them about twice yearly just to talk about the long-term consent and how the short-term consent upgrades have been working.
You know the kaitiaki fund and the annual fund. So what use is that money put towards?
Yep, so the one-off fund is for kaitiaki to spend at their discretion. We haven't actually, it hasn't been spent yet. It's still sitting with council, and there's been different considerations on how that's going to be worked through. The long-term consent
on environmental projects.
On environmental projects.
Linked to the Cambridge wastewater treatment setup?
Or improvements to,
no.
to the environment.
Yeah.
The environment. So there is a plan to have some framework put in around how that fund can be spent or considered against other projects. The work that we're doing on the long term has taken a lot of time. So we're probably meeting with our kaitiaki group at least monthly, if not a couple of times a month. And the consideration has been really around what that consent looks like and what this treatment plant looks like. So once that has hopefully kind of squared away more towards the end of this year, that grunt of that work, we'll be able to spend some more time looking at how that fund can be spent and setting a framework up around that.
Yeah, and also the other consent condition, apart from having a new one built by 2026, is that we've submitted our application for our long-term consent by December this year. So that's one thing.
So yeah, so as Martin said, we've got some other key dates that we're needing to meet, and we're working well towards our plan of being all up and running by 2026 with the new plant. And so one of those is having our consent application in by the end of this year. And then following on from that, the treatment plant shall be fully designed by mid-2023. So where we're sitting with the consent conditions as they stand, we probably feel like we're sitting at about 90% in terms of we've been writing them with iwi and they are looking good. We're needing to put some final touches on them. But the plan is for them, along with a tangata whenua assessment effects, going towards going to iwi governance throughout October to get feedback from them formally on how the consent conditions are shaping up. At this stage, we don't think there'd be any amendments to those, but there may be some minor alterations of wording as we go through that process, and looking to have support from iwi before we make application in November. We're also talking with other key stakeholders, and at this stage we are feeling relatively confident that we should be able to make that submission in November. We're also tracking well in terms of project with the long-term plan budget that we've got in place for this work. Any questions on that? So next few slides are kind of giving an update on what the treatment plant's looking like, but I guess this is our existing site, and so you'll probably all recognise the pictures that we've bought before, but it's quite a long site. We take up all of the space currently at the moment with various wetlands and ponds, and then we've also got the rapid infiltration beds, which is how we discharge the wastewater currently after it's gone through the treatment process. But moving forward, we'll be using a lot less of the site. So the area shown in the red will be up for remediation, and so we'll be looking at removing the wetlands that are there currently and planting those up and restoring it to a more natural situation. The area in the purple is what's going to be used for the plant, but it's actually only that southern part that's mainly going to be used. Up in the green boxes, we're going to be looking to have a solar panel farm, which will help provide power for the treatment plant. So as you'll be aware, as you move from a pond-based system to a new, I guess, advanced treatment system, we're going to be requiring a lot more power to run the site. So looking to offset that with the solar panels. And then where we've got the green diamond is where we're looking at having a new outfall structure. So we'd cease using the ribs and start using a new outfall structure to discharge the effluent through to the awa. We've got some more pictures on what that looks like in a couple of slides. And then we're also going through a process currently of having a portion set aside for other council facilities shown in the yellow box there. So yeah, so the site is actually reduced quite substantially as we make our way through doing this upgrade.
So Marie, just specifically on the yellow area, that's a pound for animal control and possibly the resource recovery centre.
Gary, is that enough area for a resource recovery centre? Because my understanding is that it takes a lot of space. In fact, it might be better to look at making use of some of the red area for resource recovery.
That's a lot of space, Claire. Those two ribs cover a significant area. What would your estimate of that be, Marie?
I'm not sure. Do we have it is a large area and it backs onto the other council area currently, which is in front of
as
it.
long as that's, I thought I went to a waste recovery centre presentation a number of years ago in Hamilton, and they were saying that I think they had something like 5 hectares, like they did have quite a large area, but they said they used it all because they need space for various things. That's all. I mean, I presume the people that are working on the resource recovery centre are talking to others that are doing it, so they know how much to allow. Yeah.
Yeah. And the trouble is with the rest of the land where the solar farm is going, it's geotechnically challenged and close to the river bank, so building anything or establishing anything on there would be very risky.
And that's a good use of that area for the solar panels, that you can make use of it for that piece with this. Yeah.
Just on the other side of the road to the red bit, one of the two parallel lines that are shown on the... Oh, sorry.
Yeah, just opposite the red bit on the other side of the road. What are those two parallel lines that are shown?
Road, I'd say,
Paper road. That's a paper road.
By the look of it.
Right.
So in terms of the new treatment plants, it's kind of just a bird's eye view of what it's starting to look like in terms of the shape. And so as you'll see, it's sitting quite far back on the southern side of the site. And then, as we've said, that's where we've got some more geotechnically viable land to be a little bit more secure for the new treatment plant. But what it'll be doing is taking up the space of what we've got in terms of the anaerobic and sludge ponds that we've previously done.
You might think those two lines are the high tension lines.
I don't think so.
Marie,
no, they're further over. Sorry.
yeah.
They're further over.
You can see them in the blue here. Is that
That's the blue stripes on
Yeah.
this photo. This picture is the power lines. That's one of the restrictions, we can't build under them. So that's why we're just to the right of them.
Yeah, I'm talking across the river.
I was interested in the geotechnically challenged aspect of the land. So you say it's more secure where the plant's going, but is it secure enough? Like, what's the nature of the sort of the geotechnical deficiencies? Like, are you sure it's going to be still okay? Yeah.
So we've done significant investigations, and that area was the best of the site.
All right. Yeah.
It's still got some challenges, but it can be built to be
Safe. Yeah.
safely built. Yeah, but it's it's still got some challenges to overcome, but they are overcomable.
Yeah. We've done a lot of we know the information, we know what the geotech looks like in that space, and our designers are aware of it too. So they're designing to allow for any geotechnical remediation that we'll need to do at that site to make it fine.
So we're not compromising, our standards, I guess, for what we'd really like to have in a way, yeah, you're still pretty comfortable with, yeah.
Yeah, we
with the
built for an
site.
80-year
Yeah.
design life.
Yeah, okay.
Sorry.
The setback from the river, can you just tell me what that is? What the distance is?
You got to have some, no, I couldn't tell you off the top of my head, but I can definitely find out for you and let you know. It is well set back though.
It'll be
Bridge is
past the
substantially-
legal requirements, so.
Yeah, so currently the current treatment plant goes right up to the green area, which we're able to currently operate the treatment plant in. So as you'll see, we're quite substantially set back from that. So this is what it's sort of starting to look like, I guess, a bit more in a 3D picture. So it doesn't really look like the treatment plant that we know right now. We changed from ponds into concrete tanks that hold various treatment processes within them. Somebody else able to flip the slide, please. Yeah, so that's it with the solar panels farm that we're looking to utilise that rib area that we've currently got, and we'll be decommissioning those as part of the treatment upgrade. Yeah, next one, please. And that's just it from another angle. Next one would be great, thank you.
Just going back.
Just going back to the, I mean, I really support the use of solar panels, and I think that's tremendous. But looking at that surplus land, that's the other side, huge tranche of land, does the layout of that inhibit any access to that surplus land?
No, we actually have access at the from the Pukarimu end of that site as well. So that site actually runs all the way through to Pukarimu Lane.
Right.
So we can actually, we've got an access gate and track at the other end as well.
Good, thank you.
Yeah, basically, will all be classed as contaminated land. So that's why we plan to explore it back to its native
Yep.
how it would have been. So it's not much use. Yeah.
And your estimation of the generation by the solar panels, what ballpark figure of the energy use are you looking at generating through the solar?
Yeah, so that report is currently being done. We haven't got those numbers yet.
It'll be interesting to see what it is. Yeah,
It will all be consumed at the farm. No battery required. It will just, as it's generated, it will be used. Yeah.
That's what I was doing.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it wouldn't be enough to supply everything, but it's, I think somewhere commit to this, I'd say a 10-year payback period in savings to pay for itself in electricity savings. Yeah. Well, the report's being written, so don't hold me to that.
Well, it's only recorded.
Payback period, 10 years, that's.
Yeah.
That's good.
Just purely because of the size of the area you can connect to.
So another area that we've been working on in terms of the design and has taken quite a bit of conversation and consideration is how we're actually going to discharge the effluent from the site. And so obviously with the ribs becoming decommissioned as part of the process because they're no longer fit for purpose, is looking at how we will do the discharge the effluent. And where we've landed with our Kaitiaki group is that looking to build an outfall structure. So kind of Gabion rock wall at the top and then a disbursement of rocks at the bottom for the water to make its way through. There's also a twofold benefit in doing this is because one of the main springs, there's actually a large spring that runs through the site, discharges at about that point on the riverbank and does cause some stabilization issues for us on the riverbank there. So we have to collect that water and have it discharged through the structure as well, which will make the riverbank more secure and less prone to slips in the future, hopefully. So these are very concept, it's not working here now. These are still very concept design ideas and just to give our Kaitiaki group an idea or feel for what this could look like. And so we're currently working through a concept design stage with our designers at this stage to finalise, but this kind of gives us an idea of what it would look like. So it would mean that we don't have a pipe directly into the riverbed and the final effluent discharge point for, I guess, the council point would be at the top of this wall and then it would make its way down to the river.
Is there any likelihood of discoloration as the discharge, you know, filters down through the gab iron sort of structure, because it might look a
The
bit,
quality of the effluent that will be coming out of this treatment plant will not cause any colour disruption.
all right, yeah, yeah,
Because it will be continually flowing.
yeah,
You
as
shouldn't get
well,
that
Yeah.
sun effect.
yeah,
When, you know, when it dries and then the sun gets on and it gets
Yeah.
mossy or
yeah,
green,
yeah,
It shouldn't,
yeah,
it shouldn't
shouldn't.
do that because it should always be running.
yeah.
The
Oh,
plan is to have it making its way through the hours quickly as we
Yeah.
can, so that we don't have any degradation happening to the effluent when it makes its way through. Pardon?
It'll be quite an attractive feature.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Will look good. Oh, you can get it to work.
No, no, I didn't.
So if we just talk through some of, I guess, the consent conditions at a higher level. So we will be making an application for a 35-year discharge consent. And it will, as we've just talked about, via an outfall structure. The consent limits that we are proposing for the quality of effluent line up with the MOU that's been in agreement with iwi, Hamilton City Council and Waikato District Council through the sub-regional work that's been going on in recent years. And then as another part of it is a technology review that will be undertaken at 10, 20 and 30 years throughout the consent. And that's fairly standard practice when you're looking at these long-term consents, and we have it in place for the Te Awamutu consent as well currently. So that just looks at, are we doing best practices, anything else we can be doing in this space, especially as you get out to that 20 or 30 year mark in terms of what the treatment plant is obtaining. And then I guess in what we call our more Waipa specific or conditions, and these have been worked through or come up in collaboration with our kaitiaki group. So we're wanting to see that group continue throughout the lifetime of the consent, and also to continue to build on the Motoranga Māori frame that's been established now. And that probably is likely to be an evolving piece of work as we work through the next few years and embed that in part of our environmental assessments. The kaitiaki group have also requested that the annual fund is increased to 100,000 per year, and that's inflation adjusted as we move through the consent. And the purpose of that fund would be to utilise for projects or initiatives around the environment, and it's seen as a way of giving back for the fact we are still having a discharge to the awa. So obviously if we were to give true effect to Turi Whaimana, we wouldn't have a discharge to the awa at all. We'd be removing that and looking at another option, but that's not somewhere technology is at right now. So this is a way of looking at giving a koha or something back to the environment to be spent when in and around the Waipa region and as an enhancement or restoration. And so that would form part of the framework that we're looking at how we're spending the money that we've got currently sitting with our kaitiaki group at the moment.
Through Jim. So who can access that fund in those scholarships? And also if it's not used annually, what happens to it?
So we plan to roll the funding over if it's not utilised each year. And in terms of who can access it, there'd be some form of application to a kaitiaki group that's then making decisions on how best spent to give effect back to the awa, which is having the discharge to it.
So that last bit of it sounds similar to the Waikato River Authority. That last bit in terms of any group can apply as long as it's benefiting the awa. Yeah, right.
The question I've got is why don't we work with the Waikato River Authority instead of creating another group with another fund? Why isn't this tied into them and they administer it?
I guess this is trying to be more Waipa or Cambridge location and trying to give effect to our mana whenua that are a part of our kaitiaki group, which would like some more impact on how that money's been spent for the discharge that's occurring within that area.
Yeah, and some of the money for the short-term consent, the kaitiaki group have discussed with the Waikato Regional Authority on funding some of their work. So some of it can be used. If that gives the best, what gives the best effect for the environment for the money?
Yeah. So something else that we're, sorry.
Yeah, just looking at the positive spin-off on the cultural induction framework, that it's being delivered by the kaitiaki group on site, but obviously if staff are going to it, then there's an opportunity for it to have a spin-off to the wider Waipa district staffing.
Yeah, absolutely. So the plan is to bring in a framework which is an induction to all staff that are involved within the site to share the history of the site and the significance of that site, that where it is for mana whenua. And then the plan is also have a condensed version of part of that, which will say contractors that are only going to be there for a day or for a couple of days or coming to and from site would form part of our health and safety induction for an additional sheet to sit in there. So we're going to work through coming up with that framework with our kaitiaki over the next probably 6 months as the new consent's put in place.
Martin, can I just ask, we had a resolution service delivery in August, and it ended up that there was money there for about 50,000 a year for the life of the project. Is this 100,000 additional? Is it part of it?
That was for the short-term consent.
Right.
And this one is for the, so that ends in 2026.
Yep.
And the new long-term consent will take over, and that's a continued funding for the life of the long-term consent for 35 years.
I'm sorry to say, but I think it's excessive. I really think it's excessive. Talking about the River Authority, you know, they've got a 80 million surplus at the moment sitting there. So there's money dripping all over the place for the restoration. I'm not opposed to the restoration, but it doesn't need to be rose tinted. It's you know, I'll leave it at that.
And then also looking to have some form of cultural symbolisation included within the site. Not too sure exactly what that looks like yet, working through with our kaitiaki on that, and they're going to go back to their own boards to gather some ideas and come back to us, but there will be an inclusion within the consent for us to support the implementation of that. And then the other part is, as you've seen, the big area of land that we're needing to remediate as we disestablish from the other parts of the site. So one of the options that we're looking at, which is an exciting opportunity, is to have a greenhouse for iwi partners to lease and then also do some nursery and native plantings growing. So we obviously need to plant a lot on that site, and so it'd be quite nice to be able to have a nursery nearby, and also for the management of that as we're establishing the growing of that site over the coming years. Then there's the solar panels, which we're wanting to look at for power generation, and then also wanting to keep the opportunities for research and development. So as most of you will be aware, we've had NEWA on the site previously looking at what could be done with algae and that type of thing, and we're wanting to allow the consent to still have that opportunity for research and development to still occur on the site as and where it fitted with purpose. And that's it, I think.
Yeah, and that remediation would be a 10-year project. You know, you couldn't remediate that whole site in a short time frame, so that's the purpose of the greenhouse, is to grow the plants for that 10-year period to remediate the site.
Establish it.
So, sorry, Mike, just going to say, I know that until we actually go out for pricing, wet finger in the wind, what's the capital cost here, and what's the likely impact on the sewerage rate for individual household equivalents? Do we have any idea of that at the moment?
So we're still predicting to be within the LTP budget for the total project costs, which is 100 million. So that's still within that.
And so the operating costs, including repaying that capital, is included in the LTP.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mike.
Is the 3.5 million for the $100,000 a year included?
That would come out of the operation
Right.
costs.
So it's budgeted.
It would be included in the funding from the operational budget that's currently funded. It's not an extra.
Are we looking, Martin, are we looking at building the greenhouse or asking them to build the greenhouse and lease it from council, lease the land from council, and then make it a business proposition for them?
Yep, so we're looking at being a business offer
Yep.
for them, so they can employ local people to work on it. Yeah, those finer details we'll work on once we've got the consent. We'll then work on those, refining those details down to a contractual agreement of some description, whether we build it and they lease it or they build it and we pay them to do the remediation is the next stage. Yeah.
Just allowing the opportunity for that to occur on the site as we make our way through the consent at this stage.
Yeah, okay. Any other questions? Right, Thank you. And once again, sorry to hold you up, Marie. You've been
okay.
hanging around in town, have you? Sorry about that.
That's okay. Nice to be back.
Yeah.